Hello everyone, Crystal Fissure here with Nintendo Gen 64, and today we're here to talk about some of the rules and guidelines for ISGP, International Spyro Grand Prix. Welcome Angus, this is not a talk show,
Yes.
but I'm sounding like a talk show host.
Well, Crystal Fisher, you'd be a very good talk show host if this was a talk show. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a general information video today, talking about some of the rules and regulations that we're going to be implementing in this upcoming tournament for your speedrunning pleasure.
That's right. First things first, we're going to talk about the games that you can play, and most people already know this, but just to emphasize, the games that you are allowed to play for this tournament are Spyro 1, Spyro 2, Spyro 3, Spyro 1 Japanese, and Spyro X Sparks Tondemo Tours, in other words, Spyro 2 Japanese. These are the only games allowed. This is the Insomniac era. This is the only games that are allowed to be played. The other games, like the GBA games, PS2, PS3, Skylanders, of course, 100% not allowed. This is a classic games tournament.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And especially right. if you're a time traveler from the future coming back playing the Reignited trilogy, unfortunately you're also not allowed to do that. So
no, that's right. It's amazing that we can actually say that. But yeah, for now, Reignited trilogy is not on the cards. In the future, we'll see. But this tournament is, it's going to be focusing on the classics, and that's what everyone is, I think, good at here. I think everyone that has joined, whether they're noobs at speedrunning races or not, I think that everyone here is going to have at least somewhat skill playing these games. So I think it's the perfect fit for the first Spyro Tournaments tournament. So we've got the competitors here. They're going to face each other live, and they need to be speaking in the Discord server while the run takes place. So that means that you're not doing runs by yourself and then comparing with someone else. You're actually doing the race live with them. So you can go into a bit more detail about that, Angus.
Yeah, well, the big difference with this to how speedruns normally take place, if you're not familiar with this rule, is that you only really get one chance and one chance only during your run. You can't use save states and restart the run or lay down a save state and go back and fix something you stuffed up. So be very careful what runs you're doing, how carefully you plan your route out, and how much time you put into it, depending on what kind of result you want during this tournament. Because every run has to be done once and once only, unless, and this is a very key thing to remember, unless there are some extenuating circumstances where maybe both you and your competitor have to restart for whatever reason. An example would be that maybe your emulators crash at the same time, or you both have distractions that cost you to die, and you both agree that maybe a restart is required. But unless something like that happens, you play in the speedrun, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, and this very, very rarely happens anyway. So I can't see it being applicable in this case. But if it is, that's sort of our backup just in case. So yeah, there's really an emphasis on it being live, and that the whole point about that is that you can be a tremendous speedrunner at this game, but everyone makes mistakes, and that's where you get some of these amazing sort of going back and looking at some of the previous I'm a Speedrunner tournaments, some incredible runs where there will be someone that is clearly better than the other person overall, but due to a variety of reasons, they end up falling behind and end up losing because they make a critical mistake at a critical point. And I guess that's what speedrunning and races are all about. The races are to be determined between the competitors ahead of time, and can be for to do anything except any percent runs, 120% runs, or 100% runs. This is for the first round only, though. Later on in the later rounds, we will we'll decide what will happen, what the time limit and stuff like that for those rounds will be, but that's not, that's probably a couple months away. So the point is that we basically don't want you to do runs that will be, too long for the first round, because the first round is, I guess, to weed out the good from the great. And it's all about...
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, like it's sort of, it's I guess I'm technically not going to say that, okay, you're banned from getting to Winter Tundra, but the reality is that in a speed run that may go for, 25 minutes, it would be better to do runs that would be, involved in the first two worlds. And we build up to the bigger runs in the later rounds.
And another thing along this point that I would also like to point out is that as long as you and your opponent decide on a stipulation or an objective or whatever you want to call it, you can pretty much do any speed run that your heart desires. You can do something as obscure as picking a bunch of challenges that you have to do in Spyro 2, or you could do something like as simple as maybe collect 40 dragon eggs in Spyro 3. It can be anything, and we really emphasize the point of being creative with these runs. I'd love to see a variety of runs of different games, of different lengths of time, of different stipulations. That's what really these tournaments are all about, is two people facing off in anything in Spyro. We really want to prove or show who the best players of this game are.
Yeah, that's right. The rules are that you have to play Spyro 1, 2, and 3 at least once. You cannot do 10 Spyro 2 speedruns, for example. You have to play at least one of them. The Japanese games are not compulsory, but in my personal opinion, they are heavily favored for me, because I would love to see that, because there's actually a lot of things that are sort of different about the Japanese versions. The way, not being able to do a double jump. So if you're one of those people that want to try a different way of speedrunning through Spyro 2 Japanese, or Spyro 2, the Japanese version is a really good test, I feel. So Japanese games are not compulsory, but highly recommended, because we've actually, have you noticed, Angus, that we pretty much almost never got Spyro Japanese speedruns back in the day?
I mean, they were a lot. The games were rarer to find, I suppose, back then. But now they're quite readily available. So if you and your opponent want to do a Spyro 2 Japanese or Spyro 1 Japanese speedrun, we heavily encourage it.
Yes.
It just adds more variety to this tournament.
That's right. Runs must have a minimum duration of 10 minutes. So you need to pick a run that will take more than 10 minutes. Now, I know you could be a bit up for debate. It's like, oh, well, I don't know, I could do this quicker. But if you do think that's going to happen, and you do think you're going to be too quick, pick a run that's longer. For example, a 30 orb run, or maybe, I mean, that's probably too many either, but something like that, something that will take a while. I personally love doing, I think one great way to make a speed run go for a while would be to race to 100% a particular level, because a lot of the time that can take a while. Obviously maybe something in the second world in Spyro 2 or something like that. But yeah, it's up to you guys, as long as you agree. And on that as well, we want to emphasize as well that you must not bully your opponent into doing a run they don't want to do. Now, that's not saying that's not saying if you're a really good speedrunner and you're saying you want to do something that has a lot of glitches. We're not saying, well, you can't tell them to do that, but you do have to come to a compromise. If you're like an extreme speedrunner, extremely good at the game, and you're playing someone that's essentially speedrunning for the first time, try and meet in the middle. Try and do a run that you both haven't done before. And that's where we again go back to the kind of runs that are really fun and random, because I think that's a great way to get everyone involved in doing stuff that they've never done before.
100%, and be also warned that, or not warned, I suppose, but if you two can't decide on a speed run, we can randomize the race for you. So if maybe you come to us with 3 or 4 stipulations that you would like to do, we can come up with a random selection of which race you are doing. That's been an established form of determining races when there's been a stubborn or like a disagreement, I suppose, of what the run should be. So feel free to come to us if you and your opponent can't decide what race to do.
That's right.
And we'll decide for you.
During the speedruns, the call must be recorded either by using Fraps or some other audio recording software. We want everything that happens in the race to be in the call, in the video that eventually gets uploaded. We want to have all the banter, everyone's voice heard. That's honestly 80% of the fun of these things are the actual calls. So we don't want anyone being silent. We don't want anyone, not being able to speak and stuff like that. And we need the call actually recorded. So then when the race goes up, all of the moments and all of the discussion during the speed run is actually up on the video.
Absolutely. And that's something I can't stress enough too, is these tournaments have always been about the personalities involved in them. So we really encourage friendly competition and just having fun in these things. And that's what the calls are all about. So if you're a more introverted person and you don't feel comfortable speaking in the call, that is okay, but just make sure that you join the call in audio format
Yeah,
as well. This
you,
is also
you
a
have
way
to be physically present in the call.
Yeah, you have to be present in the call. That's right. This sort of falls into our speedruns have to be done live. You have to be in the call. If you can't be in the call, or if you decide that a time that you guys have chosen to do the run, for whatever reason you're not allowed to talk, let us know, and I'm sure we can come up with a way around that. But this does help with making the runs more entertaining, because after 135 Spyro speedruns, it can get a little dry. So the personalities are what we're here for.
Is that how many races there will be? 135, is that right?
In round one, yes.
In round one. Jeez. Okay, excellent. So after the run has been completed, one competitor will be required to send their run to the other for editing. Now, this is something that's this is a huge undertaking, for round one for us as hosts. So we've sort of been deliberating over what to do, whether we're going to edit them all, whether you guys are going to edit them all. At this point, I would say that we will give you some guidelines on how to edit these videos, like using Sony Vegas and stuff like that. We want to put the logo, like a little 5-second little intro thing at the start of each video as sort of a style guide to promote the tournament. And of course, any excuse to show off our beautiful logo here, we will. But that's sort of the point, is that, we want you to edit these, split screen, and someone can edit them. We can
even
edit
if you
them.
don't have. We can, even if you don't have Sony Vegas as well, you can edit these in Windows Movie Maker. So there is a great tutorial done by our very own Ratchet5 on how to do that, which it may be an option if you don't own Sony Vegas.
That actually reminds me as well that I might as well point out that I highly recommend, and I know some people won't agree with this, I highly recommend playing the game in 4:3. So non-widescreen, non-force widescreen, because that means that when you do send this footage to someone to edit, it will be very easy to place them in Sony Vegas or Premiere or whatever, because the templates we've set up will be for 4:3. We don't want like stretching and sort of needless stretching and squashing and stuff like that of the footage. We want it to look really good. Like in the past, there's been speedruns of all different kinds of aspect ratios, and it's a bit naff. So we want it to look really cool.
Odd that you would select that word to use, but
it's a bit British, but yeah. Just to emphasize again, Angus and I can edit some of the speedruns if you're not comfortable with editing them. We would rather not edit 135 speedruns, but I think that we're happy to do some. If you guys are really, truly not too technologically savvy with the Sony Vegas or editing software, we're happy to edit them. But we will, as I said,
if it's an absolute impossibility for you to edit it, just send it through to us and we can do that. Remembering, of course, that every time, say if you are editing someone's speedrun, make sure that you have your footage, their footage, and the Skype call or the Discord call. I feel like that's straightforward to mention. I don't want to insult your intelligences, everyone, but this video will be used further. You can come back to this video at any time if you have any queries about the tournament, because I think this will be used as a point of reference for going forward if you
and even future tournaments
have any issues.
Exactly right. So we've got the comment section open as well. So if you have any questions as well, please ask us. Because the tournament, by the time this goes up, it's going to be very, very, very soon. And I mean within the day. So it's going to be very, very exciting. If you have any more questions, please ask us, because we're probably, probably missing something at some point. But because we've been doing these for years, we kind of know how they go. But obviously, there's some people that aren't as familiar, and that's perfectly fine. This honestly, I would say, if you're going to get all meta, we pretty much did this for people that are getting into this for the first time. That's honestly half the point, is just to get these new people into racing Spyro games. It's so much fun, and hope this video helped. Thanks, Angus, for helping me along here, and
that's all right, Crystal Fissure.
In case you guys don't know some of the people in the tournament, we're going to put the names up right now. All the people that know they're in already know. Again, apologies to anyone that did not make the cut. If you are watching this hoping that you made it and you didn't, We do apologize. We had so many entrants, or basically doubled the amount than we were allowed in, so we had to cull them somehow. That's not to say that you will not be allowed in the next tournament. There is always a next time. I know that we're already jumping ahead, but don't worry. This is not the last time, hopefully, that we do something like this. So congratulations to everyone. Congratulations to everyone that got in, and apologies to anyone that didn't. But
now,
you still have a great time.
The very exciting news, of course, is that this tournament will be starting very, very soon. So the very next video you see on this channel will be the announcement of the groups for round 1 of the ISGP, and as soon as that video goes live, the tournament begins.
That's right. And we'll put that in the description as well. The tournament begins the second the next video goes up, because this next video is fantastic. I'm extremely excited to see this as well. This is going to be fantastic, guys. Thank you very much for watching this. Thanks, Nintendo Gen 64, for joining me, and we will be back very, very soon. Goodbye.
And good night.